Welcome to the True Man Podcast. This is an invitation to radical reconstruction of a man's masculine heart and soul and a place of safe community where we dare to ask questions deep seated inside a man and explore ways to help you become a better man, a better son, a better dad, and a better spouse. Isn't that what we're all after? I know I am. So thank you for being with me here today. Again, as I always say, such a pleasure to have you along for the ride. And if you can share this with somebody in your life, so simple, just go into the app you're on right now and send that out via text to somebody that you think that this would mean a lot to. Now, today we are going to explore a topic that really touches not only the hearts of entrepreneurs and business people, but also every one of us at some point in our lives. Now, you may not like this word when I bring it up, but this topic is desperation. Boy, oh boy, how many of us are operating in that mode or have at some point in our life? Yes, this is a heavy topic, and it stems from the many conversations that I've been having recently with a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs. Now, desperation shows up in many, many ways. Your body language, what you say, how you act, and your deeds. And I think many people think they're hiding it. But I'll tell you what, I've found it's easy to spot when you know what you're looking for. And let's face it, it's not very becoming. And none of us want to feel that way, do we? No, heck no. But desperation, it's a feeling many of us are familiar with, right? The tightness in your chest when your goals seem to slip through your fingers, the nagging doubt whispering that you may not have what it takes, the sleepless nights spent wondering how to make ends meet, how to get out of the rut that you found yourself in. Haven't we all been there at different points in our life? Today, let's explore this a little bit more. How to move beyond this place of desperation to a place of purpose and peace. Let's take a look at how trusting God, making sound decisions, and embracing positivity can turn the tide in our lives. So, we're going to uncover a little bit on desperation today and how it can be a stepping stone, believe it or not, rather than a stumbling block, as long as we choose to put in the work to transform ourselves and our circumstances. So let me start with a little story. I think it's always good to hear a real life story with a positive outcome. So meet Sean. Sean is a small business owner who had always been driven by a passion for baking. He loved to cook. His bakery was his pride and joy, and his recipes brought smiles to all of his customers. But as the pandemic hit, you remember COVID, don't you? We're still talking about it, still living it out. The landscape of his business shifted drastically. Happened to a lot of us, didn't it? Orders dried up, expenses piled high, and his savings dwindled. And guess what crept in? Desperation. Have you been there? His nights began to be filled with anxiety. He'd ask questions like, what if I fail? What if I lose everything that I built? He asked himself over and over again these questions in a frantic attempt to save his bakery. He made a hasty decision. He purchased ads that he couldn't afford, cutting corners on ingredients, and even taking out a loan with some unfavorable terms. The result? Well, his problems compounded, and he felt stuck in the cycle of desperation. How many of you have felt stuck at some point in your life and had that feeling of desperation? Well, one day, Sean reached his breaking point, and sitting alone in his darkened bakery, he just flat out broke down in tears. And he did something that he hadn't done in years. He prayed. He asked God for guidance and strength, and then sat quietly. It's those whispers where we hear God, and he was feeling a peace that he hadn't felt in months. From that moment on, Sean began to rebuild not just his bakery, but himself. And he started by seeking wise counsel, getting around people that could help him, revisiting his business plan, and creating a space to breathe and to think clearly. So important to create margin in your life where you can do that. And instead of operating from a place of desperation, he began to operate from a place of faith and intentionality. Now, today, Sean's Bakery thrives, not because he avoided challenges, but because he transformed how he faced them. Now, Sean's story highlights a key truth here. Desperation clouds judgment, doesn't it? Have you experienced that? Desperation will just take over in our lives, and it makes it impossible to make good decisions. Now, when we operate out of desperation, we often make those decisions rooted in fear. You've heard me talk about this before. Fear, false evidence appearing real. It's hard to operate from that paradigm. You really want to operate from a paradigm of wisdom. Now, fear tells us there's no way out, so we can cling to the quick fixes or rash choices. Fear convinces us to compromise our values or to ignore the bigger picture in the pursuit of immediate relief. Now, this is dangerous, not only for ourselves, but for those around us. And as leaders, as business owners, and even as family members, our actions will ripple outward. They affect everything around us when they're negative. And they affect everything around us positively when we act in a positive light. And when desperation drives us, we spread that energy to our teams, our customers, and our loved ones. And the result? Well, we create an environment of instability, of distrust, and a chaos. Who wants to live in chaos? Not me. But I have great news. It doesn't have to be that way. So let's talk about how you can break free. Number one, trust God. The first step to moving beyond desperation is trusting God. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 and 6 reminds us, trust in the Lord with all your heart and learn not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Trusting in God doesn't mean sitting back and waiting for miracles. It means aligning our actions with his will and trusting that he will guide us even when we can't see the way forward. It means acknowledging that we are not in control, but that we are part of a greater plan. Now, for Sean, prayer was the turning point. It gave him a moment of clarity and peace, which he hadn't felt in months. And when you trust in God, you open yourself up to his wisdom, which often comes through moments of quiet reflection, as Sean experienced, scripture, or wise counsel. Probably a combination of all the above. Number two, make good choices. This is the second key, really, to breaking free, is to making sound choices, deliberate choices. Because desperation pushes us to make impulsive decisions. And that's the business equivalent of putting duct tape over a leaking pipe instead of fixing the source of the problem. So to make better choices, we need to do a couple of different things. Pause and reflect. Don't go fast, slow down. Instead of acting on impulse, take a step back, breathe, Tap on the brake pedal and ask yourself, am I making this decision out of fear or wisdom? Seek advice. You got to have wise counsel around you. Reach out to mentors, trusted friends, or experts who can provide perspective. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Sean's turning point included seeking counsel from a financial advisor who ultimately helped his debt and restructure it. Prioritize long-term success. It's tempting to look for quick wins, isn't it? But sustainable success comes from steady, well thought out actions. Good choices often require courage, don't they? They may involve saying no in the short term, but stepping out of your comfort zone, it will help you pave a way for lasting success. Third, operate with positivity and grace. Now, we got to shift a mindset here of desperation to one of positivity and grace. Positivity isn't about ignoring reality, it's about choosing hope and gratitude, even in difficult circumstances. Grace, on the other hand, is about giving ourselves and others the space to grow and improve. Now, how do we do that? Well, practice gratitude every morning. When I do my meditation and prayers, I immediately follow up with three things, sometimes more, that I'm grateful for. Every day, I identify those three things that you're grateful for. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we lack to what we have. Speak life. In other words, the words we speak have power. If you're using negative language, stop. Your words have power over you. Choose words that uplift, encourage, and inspire, both for yourself and for others. And invest in self-improvement. Boy, this is key. And this is going to help you with your speaking and the words that you choose, whether it's reading a book, attending a workshop, or simply taking the time for self-care. And investing in yourself allows you to show up as your best self. Now, when Sean began operating from a place of positivity and grace, he noticed a shift, not just in himself, but in his team and in his customers. Why? Well, positivity is contagious, man. It has the power to transform entire environments. So, how do we move forward from desperation? Let me summarize real quick. Trust in God, surrender your fears, and allow His wisdom to guide you. Make good choices, pause, reflect, and act with intention rather than impulse. Third, operate from a positivity and grace mentality. Focus on gratitude, speak life, and invest in your personal growth. Desperation is not the end of the road. It is a challenge, yes, but it also is an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to transform. And the key is to embrace the work it takes to move forward and to do so with faith, wisdom, and a heart full of hope. Now, to those of you feeling stuck today, I leave you with this final thought. You are not alone. Many of us have experienced this, and you are not without options. With trust, intentionality, and positivity, you can rise above the challenges you face. Like Sean, you can transform your story from one of desperation to one of triumph. Now, I hope you've enjoyed today's True Man podcast. I hope you enjoyed that example about Sean. I think it's good to shed light on real life situations. And if you enjoyed today's show, please go out and share it with the world. I so greatly appreciate you listening to the True Man podcast. And until next week, I want to encourage you to go out and better your life. In doing so, you will better somebody else's. Now go out and make this your very best day ever. Thank you so much for listening.